Well, hello. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Chik-Wauk. We're happy to have you here today for our presentation. But before we start, I did want to introduce myself. My name is Caroline. I work in the Nature Center here at Chik-Wauk, and it's my third summer here, so I see a lot of familiar faces, which is great. Just wanted to let you all know that next week at the Nature Center we have another presentation. We'll have Kyle Johnson here, who is a moth expert. So that's our next presentation. Coming up next Sunday at 2 o'clock. We have many others throughout the rest of the summer and into the fall time. And a special shout out to Visit Cook County and to our Gunflint Historical Society Gift Club. They're our sponsors that allow us to have such a wonderful assortment of speakers throughout the summer. So thank you to those folks who are helping us out. Today we are joined by Mark Zimmer. You may know him as the Barefoot Paddler. He has spent many days, months, years exploring the Boundary Waters and pretty much living there all summer, like whole season pretty much, right? Yeah, so he is been in the wilderness a long time and just finished a really cool project exploring every campsite and portage and special interest locations in the Boundary Waters. So we are very excited to hear from him today. So join me and let's welcome Mark.
Thank you. So who am I? Well, they call me the Barefoot Paddler. I do all the portaging and pretty much everything in the woods barefoot. It's just the way I choose to do it. Some of it has to do with my grandpa was a barefooter, and it kind of helps remember him in a good way too, which is a nice bonus for it. So I guess pretty much for like the last 12 years, maybe even longer than that at this point, 13, 14 years, I go into the Boundary Waters all summer long, and it started out just kind of doing my thing where I'd go out there and kind of look around and explore and figure things out. And it's not that I got bored, it's just I needed more, you know. So it kind of started to come into projects, and I guess this is kind of what it all turned into. So anyways, it's not that I don't have friends. I mean, I do. I just, you know, nobody comes out here for this long to do things like this. So I probably have close to 5 years of my life, you know, not consecutively, but over time in the Boundary Waters. So we're getting close to the 2,000 day range probably, which is pretty cool. But I've done every camp. I've paddled past every campsite. If people are at the campsites, I don't take pictures of them just out of respect for other people. I wouldn't want that to happen to me, I guess. So the portages are a little easier, just, you know, but some of them are busy, you know, so I have pictures of most of them. Hiking trails are a little bit easier. I have pictures of most of the lookouts and everything like that. And then the points of interest, I'm trying to tie in some historical points of interest, waterfalls, beaches, old resorts, and a few things like that. So I guess never did I expect to be doing this, but here I am. So here's how it started. When I was a kid, I guess I was born in Virginia, Minnesota, and then we moved to central Minnesota and came up here for some trips and vacations and stuff. So I guess I didn't really grow up here, but I was born here, so the air must have been something. But so here's me as a kid, and this must have been in, I don't know, the late 80s. Back when that fashion was still cool, right? Okay, so the first few years, what I started to do, I guess, kind of to get into this, is that, you know, everything in the real world, you know, I guess, in the out world is all really fast-paced, right? So I need to just slow things down, right? And I give them all a good way to do that and to think things over and stuff is to be out here and paddle around and do it. It gives you time, and there's never really a hurry, and when you don't have an agenda, you can just kind of figure things out. So that's what I really came out here to do. So then I kind of traveled around, and everything had that awe factor at first, you know, where you get to see all the big, beautiful cliffs, and especially on this side, you know, everything is just, you climb up to the top and it's so beautiful. I don't necessarily feel that I have that all the time now as much as I used to, so I kind of miss that. but nonetheless, you know, I mean, I remember it, and it's cool, you know, and I always, you know, feel fortunate for the people that get to experience that for the first time. I was a Boy Scout, not that I really, you know, that helps a ton or anything, you know, but my skills weren't what they were. The first few years I came up here, I think I'd come out of the woods, you know, like 150 pounds, just really thin, and it was struggles for a long time, and then I just needed to build up my skill set, right? So that's what I started to do with plants, and fishing has really picked up. It's, you know, we all know it's a lot different to fish the clear water lakes than it is the darker water lakes and everything. So as soon as I learned that a little bit and everything, and then, you know, fish move, so they're not always easy to catch, but berries, you know, they stay in the same place, you know, so it's a little easier to gather a bunch of them. So then I learned all the berries and everything, and I do know a lot of the plants. In the spring, you can make some really good salads out of some of the things we have. And then I also use like sweet gale, and then over on the other side of the boundary waters, there's a plant called sweet fern, which is another spice that we really don't have growing on the Gunflint side. And I'll talk about a little bit more of the variety and plant species, I guess, later too. Anyways, after learning about all this stuff, I did develop my first website. And this one was just, it starts more with like berries and everything. So I just had some videos on there to kind of explain who I was and stuff, and then I had the free berries pamphlet. And that was more about what this was about at first, was really just kind of sharing that, and that was like my gift. You know, I don't have kids, so this is like my way to give back or whatever, my thing to leave to the world. So I did the berry pamphlet website here, and there's really not much on there, I guess, anymore. So, but anyways, that's how I started, right? I mean, we all have to start, you know, at zero and go from there. So this was my starting point. So let's see how do I get back to the picture. There we go. So the next thing I did, this is probably one of my favorite pictures that I've ever taken in the boundary waters. This is over by Wine Lake, which is central boundary waters. It's a pitcher plant. It just, with the reflection of the sun and the clouds going into it, it just kind of reminds me of like a Dr. Seuss, you know, type photo or something, you know. It's really, really cool. So let's share that one. So then a part of it in the middle years, after I kind of went through, you know, I was getting better at the plants. So I started learning more of them. The water levels was something that was really, I never really realized how much the water levels change over the course of the summer. And over here they do to an extent in some areas, but over on the western side of the boundary waters by Lake Lac La Croix and everything, they change substantially, you know. I mean, on an average year, they probably change 3 feet, you know, on some of the lakes, the water levels, which does bring cranberries around the shorelines as opposed to picking them in the bogs, which is kind of a neat aspect of some of them lakes. Another thing I did was I kind of started to explore deeper. So instead of just going, you know, around the lakes, I actually went up the hills and I went deeper, and I'd hear water and I'd follow the water and explore more, and it just kind of got me, you know, questioning, you know, like, you know, how accurate is everything. So then I, you know, started to figure, well, you know, I know the portages weren't accurate, so I started some of them projects and everything. I used to do everything out of a kayak. I had a 12-foot kayak. It's a small boat. It was 55 pounds, which honestly, my canoe is 30 pounds now. So it's like, okay, on a windy day, especially over here on these long, narrow lakes, you know, you can get blown across pretty easily. I really, really like the canoe, but I can't say anything bad about the kayak. So I know that that's a huge, you know, controversial, you know, subject between people, is canoe or kayak. And I found in the right circumstances, both of them have their advantages. And there's days that I would choose a kayak over a canoe, and there's definitely days I would choose the opposite. One of the things that I deal with personally is the loneliness. This summer, has been different because you know, I've been kicked out of the boundary waters for a long time, and the fires and everything. It's been a lot different year, but at the same time I've been able to socialize with a lot more people. And when it was shut down, I picked berries and I kind of distributed them between the outfitters and everything, which was great networking for me, gave me something to do. And you know, I mean, it's picking berries, and I like doing it, you know. So you know, I'm a heavy forager, and being able to share what I guess I enjoy. I mean, as much as it sucks, it's still fun for me to do it. Other ways that I deal with the loneliness is really just like short conversations with people on portages and stuff. And at the beginning of the year, I feel like I chase people down, or you're like avoid them more, right? But then at the end of the year, it's like, oh, there's people, you know. Maybe I should go talk to them, which is completely opposite. So even it's weird how I change throughout the season, and the loneliness is something that like I always know that I'm gonna get lonely, and I always know it's coming, but I really don't know how to prevent like it from happening. So then this year has been kind of nice because I haven't had it happen. And realistically, at this point, you know, it's only another 2 months till powder hard water, so like I probably won't have that happen this year. So you know, I guess there's goods and bads to everything. I'm not happy in the situation that, you know, it is, but it's going to be interesting next year going through to these places and seeing everything. It's going to be an emotional year next year. One cool thing about it is, and I'll show you guys because I have pictures of everything from the last 2 to 4 years, you know, so everything that got burnt, you know, I have pictures of all this stuff, right? So I have a history of everything now, and you know, if I can continue to keep going through all of this stuff, people are going to be able to watch the entire forest grow with me through this entire process. So it really could turn into being something really cool and just fun, you know. So another thing I try to do is, you know, become completely self-reliant with the plants and the berries and everything like that. And you know, I thought more that I could be more independent, but I realize now that, you know, it's a group effort for everything that I have. It's not me making a canoe and building a paddle. It's everybody's knowledge coming together. And when I first came in, I think I wanted just to be more independent, and now I realize that there's a lot more to the story than it's just me. It's everybody is included, and that part of it changed. I think I became a lot less selfish from being alone, which maybe seems weird, but there's a lot of things that I don't really fully understand that's happened to me, the ways that I think now that it just happens that way, I guess. So then I kind of changed things now. Is growing up is kind of, you know, my way of going through my life, right, you know, in the series, you know, and this is, you know, I'm talking now, this is probably after like 8 years of me being in the woods. So now I'll teach some plants to people. One of the plants that I really like to teach to people is sweet gale. It's one of the plants that grows around the shorelines. It's abundant on every lake from here all the way over to Crane Lake, so you'll get it everywhere in the boundary waters. It's a strong spice. So it's got like a peppery flavor. So it's one that people can kind of relate to. Nobody really has any allergies to it. And then the nutlets on it stain really, really heavily yellow. And I'm not sure, I guess, I know most of the pictographs were red. So I think that they use the red osier plant to stain them. But the sweet gale stains really, really yellow. So if you just take your fingers like this with the nutlets, your whole fingers will be yellow. It's really pretty cool. So part of the plants, I guess, was the edible plants brochure, which I have set out over there. You guys are all feel free to grab one. But here's that. So I put the native plants on there. I tried to concentrate on the native plants. And I have strawberries, and I tried to make it kind of go through the seasons too, right? So like things that ripen in the spring, I put right away. So wild strawberries, of course, we have them that grow around here, and dewberries. June berries, we're still, I've still been able to find some of them ripe around here, especially south by Sawbill. It kind of seems like everything ripens from Ely over to this side and then down to Tofty. It seems like there's kind of like a way where it kind of goes like this for some reason. But it can extend my berry season all the way up to like a month and a half to 2 months just for like blueberries and raspberries themselves, and we're not talking about like cranberries and chokecherries and everything in the fall. This is just the summer berries. So gooseberries is another thing that pretty much grows everywhere. The only thing that I'm not really sure of is currants. I don't know I know we have a lot of currants over on the Gunflint side, and I don't remember if I recall seeing a lot west of Prairie Portage. So there's a separation line in there, and I'll show you that later on the map too. But otherwise I got blueberries, raspberries, which of course we all know. One of the ones that I put on here is snowberry. And snowberry grows in like mossy areas, and it hides under the leaves. So they're little white berries, and a lot of the times you won't see them, but they're there, and they taste like a juicy wintergreen, which is really exceptionally good flavor. Thimbleberries is another thing that we only have on the eastern side of the Boundary Waters. Once you get to Prairie Portage is the last place that I know as far as it goes that we have thimbleberries, and then everything after that kind of changes over to blackberries. And then you also get poison ivy and a lot of other stuff. We don't get a lot of, there's really just not a lot of poison ivy over here. And ticks is another thing. In Cook County we have very few deer ticks, and they are quite prevalent in Western Lake and St. Louis County. So, get back here. So then, after I started with the brochure, then I started gathering the portage data. It took me 2 years to paddle around the entire Boundary Waters and go to every portage. And I'd go on my phone and I'd hit the GPS button, and I'd wait till it was a clear day, and I'd wait for it to set up, and then I guess I'd start marking the trail. And there was right around 1,000 portage trails. I can't remember exactly how many there were, but it's equivalent to about 200 miles. So there's about 200 miles of maintained portage trails in there. So that was pretty cool. So then I ended up finishing that, and that was a pretty big deal for me. I'll be completely honest with you. That was my first major accomplishment that I really kind of set out to do. That took a long time. Becoming the Barefoot Paddler I have on here was never really part of the plan. I took the shoes off. The reason I took my shoes off was because I went down to St. Joe to central Minnesota for my grandpa's funeral, and when he was I was barefoot in weird places. So I came back into the woods, and I started on Alpine Lake by Seagull there, and I went from Alpine to Seagull to Paulson, through Peter back to Ogish, and then all the way back around in the day trip barefoot. And after I did that, I told myself, well, I designated that day to him, and I finished, and I didn't get hurt, and I've had my shoes off ever since. So that's kind of how that worked, But I like the story, and I like that it's a way to remember him, and if something is after this, I hope that he's happy about what I've turned it into. So pretty cool. And then the other data that I gathered has a part to do with the project that I'm working on, which is lots of data, lots and lots of data. It's fun, and it's time consuming, and it's, you paddle around the lakes, and it's great, So, and then I guess my goal now, I never really knew too much about my goals, and now my goal is to just keep doing this and keep sharing my knowledge and go from there. So yeah, so the first project, like I said, took me 2 years. That was a portage project I won't spend too much on this because this is what I did my last speech on here, was actually the portage project. So that's kind of cool. So I realized that most of them weren't showing, so I went through all the old maps. I went through the Fisher maps, Mackenzie maps. I collect old brochures, so I try to look for some old brochures and stuff like that. And I found some really amazing stuff. There's lots of old cabins on, there was the old resorts on Seagull, which I guess is being a little bit presented on tomorrow even. And then, Tuscarora had, there was one on the west end of Tuscarora. Little Saginaw had a cabin on the west end that was actually, I believe, from Tuscarora Lodge. Actually might have owned that one. And then there was a cabin on Winchell Lake, or an outpost resort or something on Winchell that was a part of, I can't remember which resort had that there, but it's in one of my brochures. It's pretty interesting. So that's how I studied everything to find it all. And then what I came up with was this map here, which is just the portages, right? And I kind of realized to myself, I'm like, okay, well, it's cool to have all the portages on there, but I'm missing the campsites, right? And it just didn't feel complete, right? So what does that mean? Well, that means that I have to go to every lake again, and not only do I have to go to every lake, I have to paddle the perimeter of every lake, right? Because that's where all the campsites are. So it's not nearly, it's a lot tougher than going, from lake to lake to portage to portage. This was quite the project, but it was really a lot of fun. And that took me another 2 years, right? So now I've got 4 years invested into this, and well, I'll show you what I got here in a second. But before I did that, this is what the website that I have now is. This is what I currently sell. And what this is just the portage data. I don't have the campsites and everything available for sale yet. I'm trying to figure out how to protect the data. So this is it, and then I just sell the data for $10 for the entire Boundary Waters, or $3 for a district for all the portages. So I feel like it's pretty fairly priced. And then what people do now is they have another app that they have to open it on, and then it just imports it into there. I'm not a computer tech. I'm doing my best with all the digital stuff. Like it's tough. I've tried to learn some coding over the winter. I've learned enough to know that I don't know much about it. So it's tough. And then I do have my edible berries pamphlet, which is my way to do positive marketing, right? Like a lot of the old brochures that I see always had like maps that had a little bit of detailed information, and the marketing, I guess, I feel like was more. It was more informational advertising as opposed to like soul-sucking advertising that we have nowadays, which I just feel like it's draining because it's so targeted on everything. And I just tried. So this is my way of doing positive marketing, right? And then that's what I tried to do with the berries, was to do positive marketing, and I just feel like that's the way to go. But it's free to download, so. I don't know, that's my little gift to humanity right there, is the brochure. And yeah, feel free to grab one. So now let's start talking about the updated project. So this is my big project, and this is my huge accomplishment that I finished. So it's to locate all the Boundary Waters campsites, right? I originally thought that there was over 2,000 campsites. There's not. There's like a little bit under 2,000. I wanted to focus on the consistency. The websites that we have out there right now, the Boundary Waters one and the Paddle Planner, they're great websites. I have nothing bad to say about them. The thing is that they have thousands of different reviews by thousands of different people. I'm not going to tell you that my reviews are right, or wrong, and other people's are wrong, right? Because we all have our opinions. But so mine is just one person's consistent opinion. So I could be wrong, 1,977 times. Hope not. But it's consistently wrong, so I'll just say that, right? And then when I was going through everything, I rechecked my portage data just to make sure it was accurate, because you know, focusing on accuracy and not having it accurate wouldn't be a very good business plan there. So I double checked everything, and everything seems to be going really good. It seems to be just about as accurate as Google Maps when you're driving down the road and everything. So it's not like you're going to be able to stare at your phone and walk through the woods without running into trees, but I feel like if you're doing that, maybe you should run into a tree. You know. So another thing I did when I was going through is I took pictures of all the campsites, so that now we all have a visual to go with it. Because if they say, you know, pictures worth 1,000 words, I can't write enough during each campsite. And, you know, I was like, well, can I write more details? And it's like, I don't know. I mean, I could do a poem for each thing. I mean, how far do you go, you know? So, anyways, I just stuck to basic information that I felt was necessary, which to me is tent spots. How many tent spots are there? Is it okay for hammocks? And I'm, without a doubt, have a huge project ahead of me to catch up on what happened this year. Because everything has changed. So now all my information has changed. Which means that this is an ongoing project for me, which I like. I just have to figure out how to make it sustainable, which is hopefully in the works, you know. So yeah, so then I do like rough capacity and how many people can be there. If it has a sand beach, I'll put a sand beach there. Another thing that I do is I pay attention to poison ivy. It doesn't affect me a lot, but I know that poison ivy is really a big deal for some people. And yeah, sure, it's not over here as much, but once you get over to the west side of the boundary waters, it's all over the place, right? So if the campsite has poison ivy, or if the portage has poison ivy, I add that detail to it. So, and it, you know, I mean, of course there's going to be some that I missed, right? But I mean, like, just in general, I mean, if it's there, it's there. So I try to do all that stuff. If it was an old resort, you know, I'll put the old resort's name on there and stuff too. And then after I got done doing all the portaging and all the campsites, I was like, well, let's do the hiking trails, right? Because why not? So then I took that other 200 miles of hiking trails, and not a big deal, right? It was actually really cool. I never really thought to myself, hey, you know, all these hiking trails would really be beautiful and stuff. But the amount of work that the people put into it, and the views and everything, and it's tremendous. It's a great great thing that they have them going through there, and super glad I did them all. And now when I'm going through and I go through the portages, I'll stop and I'll go up the hiking trail and I'll go to some of them views that I know are there now that I never knew were there, and it was just completely worth it. So the only thing that I have not done is some of the ski trails. So that's, you know, I haven't done, but there's really not a lot. Well, there's a few, and there is more over by the Ely area too, because they got some areas over there. I'm not sure if I'll end up doing them or not. It's a possibility. So in the future now, I guess is my plan is I want to turn this all into a mobile app, right? And I want it to be, it's all GPS, so it's going to work without cell reception, so that's not a problem. So I just have to learn how to code an app to make this, right? So if anybody knows somebody who knows how to code, let me know, because that's the problem that I'm running into right now, is that I just I prefer somebody local, right? I have not contacted any big name companies like Onyx or anything like that, because of the fact that they're more corporations. And I really am doing this and trying to keep everything local to an extent that the money stays in our community. It's just important to me to do that, and I just feel like if I don't do that, I'm going about it the wrong way, and that's not what I'm interested in. I'm trying to do this to benefit everybody, you know, and if I keep the price low and I can still get it to benefit, if I try to make it a win-win for everybody, is really the goal. You know, it's been a lot of work, and I'm willing to, you know, to do that to make it a win for everybody. So I really hope I can figure that out. So my project, it's over 5,800 points is what my map contains. Portages, campsites, hiking trails, points of interest, everything, right? Old resorts, waterfalls. I came up with 1,977 campsites. The Forest Service has a map that they go by Theirs has like 1940 or something like that. They're missing a lot of the hiking trail campsites, and then very few actually backcountry campsites that they're missing, but they are missing a few. I have the list and I've sent it to them, and I haven't heard anything back yet, but it's been a busy year for them, I understand. So it's coming. I know that's response is coming sometime. The hiking trails and portages are both a little over 200 miles of trails. So throughout everything, I've come up with 400 miles of maintained trails in the entire Boundary Waters, which is kind of interesting, pretty impressive. And I've completed all 400 of them barefoot, so I got some miles on these feet. Yeah, it's you know, I usually get to grow, you know, a little bit over the summer, you know, with the thickness of the skin of my feet, you know. I feel all tall and proud in fall. And then another thing that I'm doing is I'm separating the map into layers so that each district can be separated and everything like that for the 4 districts. So here's the project, and this is what it turned into, right? So this is Google Maps, and what I did here is this is so I can display it for everybody. I could turn a tab right now and I could give this away for free, but I have too much work involved in it and everything like that, and it could be stolen really easily, and I can't jeopardize that, right? But so anyways, so this is everything. This is all the 5,700 points, and you can zoom in, and it has, you can click on the campsite, and here it'll bring you the pictures of the campsites, so then you can click on them, and then they should come up. No, they will. There we go. So there's one from the lake, and then the other one is from the campsite. And some of them I have 2 or 3 pictures. The orange is points of interest, so this is one of the cliffs. Now obviously this one's not going to look that appealing to you guys because this is from the western side and they're just not as big and glorious. I mean, you know, but this one's on Tecumseh Lake. It's maybe about, you know, 100 feet or so, maybe something. But over on that side it's pretty nice. So I do have that one on there. A lot of the things here, you can also click on the portage, and I do have a lot of the portage pictures, so when you're coming up to the portage, you can view that. So there's, I'm gonna have to say probably around 4,500 to 5,000 pictures on this right now. They're all tied into the thing. So there's the trail there. Another cool thing is when I do the historical stuff. So here's a waterfall, but let's go to Loch LaCroix. Oh, actually, no, that is the. So here's the old Loch LaCroix Lodge site, and that was, you know, that one I think stayed a little bit longer. I think into the 60s, but I collect, like I said, I collect old brochures. So then I tie in the brochure to where the old location of the lodge actually was. So there you can see it on there, and then on the back side of the brochure is that. And then on some of them this one I don't have it yet, but on some of them I take a picture of what it actually looks like today, which is, you know, a lot of them, there's no remnants left, you know, you can't see anything. So, but it's just kind of interesting. Another one was on Crooked Lake. This is the Crooked Lake Fishing Lodge camp or whatever. So this is another one that just, you know, it went away with the Wilderness Act or whatever. So that's another one. And then here, this one I do actually have a picture of what it looks like now. So here's that, there's the back of the brochure, and then this is the beach, and this is where it actually was located. So, but as you can tell, it's just a beach and you can't really see anything. And that really basically goes for all these old sites. You can't really find anything. And it's still like, you know, like on Seagull, you know, when you go to Seagull, of course that's all been burnt, right? If we want to talk about that, this section of basswood right here is where the campfire just went through, and that kind of started in here and went through like this whole area right here, and this section right in here where it all burnt used to have resorts and cabins up and down that entire shoreline. So all of that history actually just got, what was left of it, got burnt. So I'm guessing that there's really nothing left. I got a brochure that said that there was 20 miles of cabins or something like that going up and down the shoreline there. And I can date that brochure from like the late 20s to early 30s. And I talked to the people, like I try to talk to the people around Yulee, but I mean, that's a long time ago, 100 years ago, you know, all the information that we have about some of that stuff is, there's just minimal information. And then I do have a brochure from this area, from Gateway Lodge or Hungry Jack Lodge, that says where Gunfoot Trail ends. So that's kind of fun. So that one dates it at least, you know, into the early 1920s or mid 1920s for that brochure, which honestly means it's probably one of their first brochures. So it's pretty cool. But yeah, so then I also have all of this separated into, like, the purple is points of interest. So we can take it and, you know, like this, I mean, this looks kind of cluttered, right? So then you can take the Gunflint district off, you know, and you can take the Tofty district off, right? And then we're just left with the points of interest. So then you can kind of go through and be like, okay, well, these are the points of interest that he has. I've got like 200 points of interest or something. Yellow is hiking trails, and then the difference between the green and the red here is that the red are not maintained trails by the Forest Service anymore, but are still there, and then the green is all maintained by the Forest Service. So, but yeah, that's 4 years of work. I like to look at it. You know, there's a lot of detail, and some of them too. You know, like there's some campsites that we still have. Like for instance, there's this campsite on a lake called Muzzle Lake, which you wouldn't think the campsite would be there. Where are we at here? But anyways, I had to go back there. I've had to go back there to all these spots to figure it out. And some of them are a little bit more challenging, a little bit more muddy. But all in all, you know, everything is pretty accessible. Let's see, Fraser, I'm on right here. Okay, this campsite right here. Right, it's kind of in the middle of nowhere there, right? It doesn't really go around the trails, so it's like, okay, is it still there or not? Well, anyways, I came in through here, and it's still there. Last year, you could get through there, but then this dam went out right here, so now this whole area drained. So that makes it pretty tough. But it's kind of neat, you know, to go through it all. And here's another kind of cool thing that I'm trying to do is with the water levels. I talked earlier a little bit, I think, about how I wanted to do the water levels. So my best example of that is Curtain Falls, which is on the way between Crooked Lake and Iron Lake on the western end. And that's the campsite. Let's see, waterfalls. So this is the waterfalls, and there's actually, I have it at flood level, I have it at mid-level, and I have it at drought level. So here's flood level, and it's really moving, right? And then we got, oops, so that's mid-level, so that's what most people really see, right? And then this is drought. So it's really amazing to see the differences and the same thing over the course of the year, you know, it's really cool. So I tried to add that aspect to it too, just because it's, you know, the more details, the better, you know, especially for extremely detail-orientated people, which apparently I must be. But yeah, so I got, I guess that's everything. As far as the project goes, I mean, I got everything on there. I can transfer this over to anything really easily from now. So my next projects that I need to go with this shouldn't take that long to move to my next parts, you know. But I just have to find the right person or people to help, you know, with the app part of it. Because like I say, it's just I can't figure it. It's too much for me. You know, I'm the guy that gets the data. I'll just keep it that way. Hiking trails through that. I mean, let's see. Here, I tried to get, I mean, as many as the old trails. If there's a trail there, I mean, I pretty much have it. If not, it's tough. I mean, I don't know. I think I got most of it, so we'll go back to this now. So that was the updated products. Okay, so now let's talk about the differences a little bit between the boundary waters, right? Because this is a big area, you know, we got 100 miles west-east or whatever it is, right? Okay, well, the west side is more of a mixed forest. You start getting oak trees over there, right? I mean, we really don't have much for oak trees over here, at least that I've ever seen. There might be some, you know, right along Superior that could have been planted, you know, or something, but I mean, there's really not. So, over there, I see oak trees. I see sweet fern, which again is just it's a fern. It's got a little spice on it. It's sweet. It's pretty good. There's blackberries over there. Poison ivy is another one, like I talked about. Thimbleberries are unique over here. So prairie portage. I don't know if you guys know where prairie portage is. I'll show you here. Prairie portage is kind of in the middle of the boundary waters. There's a line that goes like right in this area. Well, I guess it's probably a little further. There's a line like right here where the forest kind of starts to go into more of a mixed forest as opposed to everything east of here. So that's kind of where the line splits between the thimbleberries and the blackberries and everything else like that. Also in that section is a difference in water clarity on the western side of Basswood, or on the eastern side of Basswood that comes in from like Knife Lake and everything over here. Super beautifully clear water. But all the stuff that comes in from the south, from these rivers down here, this is all more stained water. So then everything kind of mixes right up in this area here, and then the water clarity from here all the way up to Loch LaCroix there is all more tannin stained, 10 to 12 foot water clarity as opposed to the 15 to 20, you know, that we have over here. I don't know if that water clarity affects the plants with the thimbleberries and the blackberries. I don't know what exactly affects that. I know that thimbleberries grow around Lake Superior, around the whole lake, so I don't know if it's lake effect that has to do with the plant species. I'm not really sure. I guess I just, you know, they're just theories. I just, you know, speaking on what I see, I guess. So that's kind of the area over there where it changes, right? So that's kind of what I talk about here is the area between Moose and Snowbank, which is Prairie Portage. That's that line there, and I'm not sure exactly what the deal is, but it's there. And then Basswood, like I say, and Loch LaCroix have different water clarities for them big lakes. I don't really think Sag has really too much of a different water clarity really kind of coming into it. You know, I think that kind of stays consistently not that clear. But Basswood is really super clear on the east side, dirty on the west. Loch LaCroix is different, as in it's in clear on the west side, dirty on the east. Just kind of neat observations, you know, as you're kind of going through. And then Crooked and Iron Lakes, you know. But then another thing is once you get into that darker, less, or maybe more tanniny or less oxygenated water, they lose the ability to hold lake trout. So for some reason along the border right there, because everywhere else along the border has lake trout, but that little section right there doesn't hold lake trout. John Flint side, as we know, has more overlooks, visually stunning over here. The long, narrow lakes can be a challenge to paddle, you know, on even not as windy days, but you know, the overlooks make it gorgeous. Some of the other areas have more slow-moving rivers. I mean, I'm guessing that they're, you know, like we have to have more slow-moving rivers over here too, but they're not really, I don't think, traveled as much. Like, I don't think many people go on the Poplar River. Or, I don't even know if the Seagull River, can you paddle much of that around? I'm not even sure. You know, so I guess I guess I got to find that out at some point. But over in the small area of the boundary, the Little Indian Sioux area, which is let's see, where do they go? There. The Little Indian Sioux area is this little bottom section right here. This area has a lot of, like, the Little Indian Sioux River is a long 15-20 mile river that just has a couple dams. Extremely moosey, really beautiful area. So that's, and it's a little bit flatter in that area right there. This area gets a little bit more, you know, cliffier and hillier. And then this is a little bit less. Not to say that it's flat by any means, but it's, you know, less. And then of course, we all know what it's like over here, you know, so, yeah. So, the other thing is I try to stay quiet, you know, of course I'm by myself, so it's like, who am I really talking to? But I'll admit it, I probably talk to myself occasionally. I don't know if I do out loud, you know, maybe. I don't know. Maybe I should record myself out there sometime, but then again, I don't know. There'd probably be no one here then. That guy's weird. But no, it's we'll see. So yeah, the other areas have more slow-moving rivers that you can paddle. Quishway River is another thing, more in the middle of the boundary waters. It's pleasant. I really enjoy paddling the small rivers because even on a windy day, it doesn't matter. And that's another thing with the canoe and the kayak. On them little rivers, sometimes them kayaks are really an advantage. Especially, I mean, even here, like Larch Creek, you know, there's a lot of dams, and it's nice just to plow up to them beaver dams, you know, crawl over the front of the kayak, pull it over, and go. In a solo canoe, you can't really do that, you know, because it's a little more fragile, and you got 6 feet in front of you instead of, you know, 4 feet or 3 feet in front of you. It's a little tougher. So that's how I see most of my moves, is going through little rivers and stuff like that, and I just turn a corner and there they are, and yeah, take some time and get to watch them. Advice to campers, I guess, might really, you know, take time to enjoy the small things, be a tiny waterfall, observing an insect, whatever, you know, small accomplishment or a short conversation with a Barefoot Paddler in a black solo canoe. So if you see me out there, come and say hi. I love the company because I get really lonely. Keep a slow pace, suck it all in and stimulate as many senses as you can. I guess the main 5 senses, you know, is what I was thinking of here, and always be looking around and smelling things or listening to the animals. Feel the water, smell the air. Maybe don't taste everything, but pretty much everything we can at least taste, you know, I guess. You know, I mean, there's a few poisonous things, but one of my biggest things is that when you get to a campsite, always find a safe location to stay right away. Tent tarp only keeps you dry, not safe. You know, it's, you know, I mean, it is, it makes you feel safe, but it doesn't. Try to kill the mosquitoes and flies. They'll just come back if you don't. You know, they'll just keep annoying you. Distribute the bodies to the ants. I'm a big friend of the ants. I don't know why, but I always feed my bodies to ants and stuff like that. It might be weird, but anyways, I kill a lot of flies over the course of the day, and I don't just want it to go to waste, right? So I've made friends with a lot of ants. And then stay silent, ups your chances to see wildlife. So then here's some of the wildlife that I guess I've seen. Is this moose here, which was sticking its tongue out at me, which was kind of neat. I had this bear in my campsite on Canoe Lake a couple years ago. This one actually booted me off the campsite. Usually we just exchange words. If I'm right by the border, sometimes, you know, I'll speak French just in case. But yeah, this one didn't listen. This one just I just ended up packing up. Man, you can tell that I was having a fire at the time that I was over here. So that one came right up to me, and I knew that one was going to make me move. This I had a lynx walk right up to me, and so that was a pretty special experience. Walked right up. This was the first picture, and then the second picture is of it sitting down. So then it was just spectacular. Here's a wolf swimming, which you don't really see a lot of wolves swimming. So I thought I'd throw this one in there because it's just one of them unique ones, you know. And there's actually 2 of them. The other one was in front of it, but I didn't get a good picture. Here I had a porcupine walk up to me. That was pretty cool, and it wasn't paying attention, so then I started yelling at it, and then it stood up on its back legs and gave me this little bashful look, and then it went off in the woods. It was pretty cool. I don't see a lot of porcupines. Do you guys see a lot on the trail cams?
No.
No?
No.
Yeah.
One?
Just one.
Just one. Okay. Well, that's very few then.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. And then the little reptile there next to the worm or whatever. I don't even know what the little black things are called. They're cool though. Newt or something. I don't know. Here's a cool moose that I saw. This was one that I turned the corner on a little river and it came out and just gave me some nice views or whatever. So that was a nice one. Here's a little fox. So I saw something really, really cool the other day when I was over by Poplar Lake, and I don't know if anybody else around here has seen this one, but I saw a black fox with a white tip of its tail. Apparently it's a morph of a red fox, and it's in like 0.1% of the population or something. That was gorgeous. It was gorgeous, and it was right over by Poplar. So if anybody else sees it over there, there's a
Somebody
black.
got a picture of it. Yeah.
For real?
Yeah. Someone.
It was
seen it.
okay, awesome, because it
Yeah.
was one of the most beautiful animals I've ever seen in my life. It was awesome. So there's a black fox around down the trail, so that's pretty cool. This one, I just got super, super lucky with this camera shot where it was the loon just jumped up over the baby at the right time, and can't really say too much more about that other than it was luck. So I guess I do have one more video that I got that I wanted to show. I just took this the other day. So this was pretty cool. Just because it's kind of fun to show the National Geographic type videos that you get every once in a while, right? So. That was pretty neat, right? Yeah, that was, so, anyways, but yeah, I think that's it. So thank you all for coming.
Any questions?
Any questions at all?
Best way to kill a mosquito.
Best way to kill one?
Fly.
So mosquitoes, I really don't have a good way, but deer flies, the ones that always buzz around your head, if you put your hand above your head, they usually buzz around your hand for a little bit, and if you watch them, they'll kind of buzz in front of it, and you can snap them out of the air if you get real good at it. So I was on Northern Lights Trail like a couple weeks ago, and I had 120 some before I lost count on it. Yeah, a meal full. Yeah.
Did you know?
No, I didn't. Yeah.
I'm interested in the canoe versus kayak question.
Okay,
And
yeah.
First of all, did you travel every day? You had your choice. When you're traveling, did you travel with both?
Oh no, I never took both of them at the same time.
Okay.
Yeah, just one or the other. Yeah.
So how did you decide which one to take?
Usually in the spring, I will choose the kayak sometimes, because in the high water, I feel like the kayak just does better. But because I've been going through everything the last couple of years, the speed of the canoe was more vital to me. So I've had the canoe up here for the last few years, just because of the speed. But I do miss the kayak in the spring, because I would usually choose that.
Aren't kayaks harder to portage?
They suck.
compared to a canoe?
Yes. Yeah. I take, because I have the hat here, so then I always have a bandana. So then I fold the bandana underneath my hat, and I just rest the seat on my head with the cushion. And I have done every long portage in the Boundary Waters with the kayak too. So, yeah. But when you're by, see, this is what I always say: when you're by yourself, you have no one to complain to, right? So, right, and so it gets you nowhere, right? So, yeah.
Does the Forest Service have anywhere near the kind of data that you have, and wouldn't they be interested in it?
I talked to the Forest Service, and they said they're working on their own stuff and everything. They don't really seem to be too interested. But yes, it's 100% more accurate than what they have. Yeah. Yep. So I don't know. I've tried to talk to them and have a good. It's not that I don't have a good relationship with them. I just don't have the relationship that I would prefer to have. You know, it would be great to be in coordinates with cooperation with the Forest Service about this. I would love it, right? Because I always tell them whenever I ask them questions, I'm like, you guys are federal, right? Like, I don't want to mess with the federal government, right? You know, yeah, you know. So I always make sure that they know that.
Yeah. But they haven't shown an interest in your database, so.
Not from what they've really mentioned. Yeah.
For the programming efforts, which we all have, one thing you can check out is there are a bunch of like local robotics teams, like all across the nation, but also across Minnesota. And most robotics teams have programming teams like built within them. They're usually like high school age, but they're also like mentors who are experienced in programming, and they might want to take on extra projects. I know one team I know is 2 Harbors. I don't know if there's any more further north.
Okay. No, that's close to that. I even thought Duluth too. The college in Duluth might be worth asking, you know, or something. But no, I appreciate that. Yeah. Cool.
When do you start paddling in the spring, and when do you quit in the fall?
Usually I like to go, well, this year was like May 8th is when my first day was, but usually I like to go in before May, and then I stay. My birthday is October 10th. I like to spend my birthday alone. So I like to be up here until mid-October. So.
And Barefoot works in early May.
Barefoot works in early May. Yes, it's, yep. It feels like spikes are shooting into your legs when you're in the water in the spring. Yep. But it's how I feel safe with not wearing the shoes. So yeah. Go ahead, man.
Wait,
I'm still mad.
Okay, you don't like leave trail for the entirety of summer? Is that what I'm thinking of? Like you go and you just stay out there like all summer and you forage for your food? Like that's
usually, yeah. You know, I guess the longest that I've spent in the woods without leaving was like a little over 5 months. So, and then
you get just one entry permit, and
it's cheaper that way.
Yeah. That was and like I forget what year that was, but yeah, it was 1 year I spent a little over 5 months on one permit. And then, but then back then I would have people come in to resupply me. Right now I resupply myself. So now the longest that I've done off of one food bag without resupplying, my food bag is just a regular backpack, right, which is like 30 liters or something. I think it was like 52 days, I think, or 53 or 54 days off of a backpack. So that's still pretty decent.
Yeah. Like a lot of fish, and a lot of these like
lots of fish and berries, and I bring pancake mix with, so I do a lot of berry pancakes. Yeah.
My favorite.
The berries, when I pick the berries, I always like the raspberries and stuff. I put them in a plastic bag and then leave them overnight, and then in the morning you take them juices and pour in your water in the morning right away. It's really good. Go ahead,
have you ever like suffered like a foot injury out on trail? How do you deal with that?
Yeah, last year I lost a toenail. It's just, again, it's one of them things that, you know, I mean, like I have no one to complain to, and I still have objectives, you know, so I mean, like, you know, you just push through, no pain, no gain, I guess, I don't know. You know, I mean, yeah, of course I cut myself occasionally, and, you know, this year I had, where my toenail was regrowing this year, you know, the torture is when they put, like, stakes under your toenails, right? Well, I had that happen, and it split the bottom of my toe open for a couple weeks. So that was kind of painful. But again, you know, it's, what are you going to do?
You hear your sunlight phone?
I used to, but now because of all the towers that we have around here, there's really no reason for me to anymore. I can get reception pretty much anywhere in the boundary waters as long as I'm up high. Right? So even as far out as places I really can't would be maybe like, well, even on Rose in that area you can. Maybe West Pike in that area on McFarland. On the north side of McFarland, there's a little bit of cell reception up top on the hill there. All the way on the west side. So really, I used to carry a sat phone, but once the towers started coming in more, I got rid of that, and now I've just switched to the cell. Yeah.
Do you do all your data collection just using your phone?
Yeah.
That's it?
Yep.
Wow. Photos, everything is just on your phone? You must have a power bank or something, or a solar panel?
Yes, I do. Yep, 100% solar. Yep, solar. That I do, and then I got power banks that I bring with, and yep, and then even when I come out and do this, I still rely on solar for pretty much everything, and water, you know, I don't filter my water, you know, I don't. Nope, I don't use any mosquito spray. I don't use any sunscreen. That's about as natural as it comes when you do that stuff. Yes.
Have you ever had Jared?
No, I have never, and I have worried about that, and not really worried too much, but obviously it goes through my mind, right? I have not filtered a single cup of water in probably 12 years.
So you go out offshore?
I do, yes. And I will not, if I'm going on a creek or a river, I will pull, I always have a liter and then a 3/4 of a liter. I'll do both full bottles before I do a small creek or something. Yeah.
You carry antibiotics with you?
I do. I carry, usually, except for this year, it was expired. I usually carry doxycycline with me, which is for lines. And then I actually got bit by a couple deer ticks, and then the one that I found was on July 3rd, right? But the clinic was closed on July 3rd, so I wasn't able to get any new doxycycline. So then I was just like, okay, well, I guess it's 1 in 3 chance. And I don't think I have lines again, but I already had it once, and it kicked my butt. It sucked. It felt like bone pain is about the best way I can describe it. It felt like someone was grinding a pestle on the shoulder, and then this one was like at an angle down, and I was like 30 miles as the crow flies from my vehicle when it happened. It was exhausting and it was miserable, and then the antibiotics came and I got them, and like 2 days later I was like 90% better. It was amazing.
Do you understand why we have so few ticks in this part of the waters?
The only other thing that I can imagine is kind of to do with the plants and the coniferous, the extreme coniferous forest maybe has less. It would be interesting to find out how Canada's spread out on their ticks to see if it kind of based that way or something, because I'm not really sure. But
Deer ticks like grasses.
Yeah.
There's less grasses around here.
Yeah, and well, I mean, they really the place I get most of them are in areas that have been recently logged, which is pretty much really everywhere, But it seems to be the temperature seems to be a little bit warmer over there, I think, maybe, or something. And maybe they just like that little bit of extra difference. Now, that's not saying that it couldn't come this way, right? Because I've noticed that, like, blackberries after the fire, I know where some blackberries are over on the Gunflint Trail side now. Right, and from the people that I've talked to who've lived on the trail for a long time, they don't really know anywhere that they were ever able to pick blackberries. So it's just kind of interesting how that changed after and it could have been, because we talked about it, and it's like, well, you think somebody just came with some blackberries? And I was like, I don't know, did Benny Ambrose, throw them out there before, have these been there since the 70s? I don't know, But there's a lot of them in some areas over here now, which is interesting.
How heavy is your pack, and how many portages do you usually do?
Anything under 10 days, I'll single portage. I'll just do my canoe in a backpack. If I do over 10 days, then I do 2 backpacks, and then I'll double portage. My gear bag is maybe 40 pounds, food bag varies. Yeah.
How heavy is your can?
30, yeah.
How was that?
Is that?
Is it a fiberglass finish?
Kevlar.
Yeah.
Graphite Kevlar, yeah. So it's, yeah. It's the black Kevlar. I kind of like that. It hides, you know, and you've heard of them big yellow noodles out there, right? It's, hides a little bit better.
Thank you. I'm sure Mark will stick around for a minute to answer any
Absolutely.
other questions.
Yes.
Thank you everybody for coming.